episode 10 of Me, You, and the DCEU. My name is Gio. This is episode 10 on August 11, 2017. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. This episode, we're going to talk about Justice League reshoots. We have some new information. And also, James Wan talks about Aquaman and the complicated production of shooting a movie that will mostly take place underwater. So all that and more. This is Me, You, and the DCEU, and let's get it started. So IGN caught up with Joe Morton, aka Miles Dyson from Terminator 2. He plays Cyborg's dad, and he was asked about the Justice League reshoots and his involvement and what exactly the reshoots had to deal with. And Morton had to say this: well, the stuff that I had to do were really just small little bits and pieces, nothing necessarily having to do with tone. I know that with Ray Fisher, the young man who plays Victor, aka Cyborg, there were some adjustments that were made in terms of the tone of the character. I think what I heard was that there was a need from the studio to lighten up the film in a way that the film felt too dark. I don't know what that meant in terms of how it got translated in terms of the reshoots, but that's what I heard. That's what I thought some of the reshoots were about. Alright, so basically what he's saying is that his reshoots had to do with lightening up the tone regarding Cyborg, the scenes with his father. We know that Cyborg is going to have his origin told in Justice League, the accident that he gets into. We saw a brief clip of what's his name, Victor Stone, Cyborg, playing football, and so we know that his origin will be in the Justice League movie. And as far as his comments go, I think, you know, it's pretty much what I've come to expect as far as Justice League goes. This movie was always going to be lighter in tone. So I don't know what you guys out there, all you trolls and haters, are talking about, saying, oh, WB's stepping in all of a sudden. Now that Snyder's gone, bringing in Joss Whedon, we need to lighten up this movie, so on and so forth. This was always the plan. I try my best to explain this to people who I talk to regarding Justice League, that this was always the plan, and they just think I'm lying. So for those of you out there who think, you know, us DC fans are just saying, oh, no, this was always planned, and you think we're lying and whatnot, I'm going to refer you to this article right here that I looked up just intentionally for this episode. Just 2 weeks before Batman v Superman released, and Chris Terrio, he talks about the Justice League and having a lighter tone. I'm not done with this yet. I want to go back and keep telling the story. Batman v Superman is a bit of an Empire Strikes Back or Two Towers, or any similar middle film in the trilogy. The middle film tends to be the darkness. I do think from Man of Steel through Justice League, it is one saga really. I expect Justice League to be tonally not quite as dark as Batman v Superman. From that point of view, I felt compelled to go back and try and lift us and myself into a different tonal place, because I think when you write a darker film, sometimes you want to redeem it all a bit. So this was all planned. Don't believe any of those people out there on the internet who are saying, you know, Warner Brothers is stepping in, we need to make this film lighter. It was always going to be lighter. And Joss Whedon, I wouldn't want anybody else coming in if it wasn't Zack Snyder to make this movie and add that dialogue between characters and whatnot. This is to be expected, so don't freak out. It was all part of the plan. Not to quote the Joker, but anyways. Alright, moving on, we're going to talk James Wan, Aquaman. He recently did a phone interview and in the middle of production, and talked about the complex and complicated shoot. Now, during the interview, James Wan talked about how very technically challenging of a shoot it is to be on regarding Aquaman. Now, you would imagine a movie like Aquaman involves a lot of water, seeing how it takes place mainly in Atlantis. Part of the challenge for James Wan is finding a way to make it look normal, you know, people talking underwater, fighting underwater, so on and so forth. Overall, James Wan talks about the time consumption of making it look normal for people to talk underwater, have clothes underwater, so on and so forth, because Aquaman, as a lot of you may have guessed, it mainly takes place underwater. We've seen production photos and little videos on Instagram of actors, you know, training with the green screen and making it look like they're floating and whatnot and swimming, all making it try to look normal. So this is a very complex shoot, as you may imagine, and James Wan just talks about how, time consuming it is to make it all look normal. So my takeaway on this is that if this movie works, if James Wan is able to pull off a movie that mainly takes place underwater and make it fun, make it look visually appealing, visually striking, and overall just make a really good comic book movie, it'll be yet again another challenge that he's accomplished as a filmmaker. We all remember Furious 7 and how that production stopped halfway through because of the death of Paul Walker, and how he had to find a way, him and the writers, to make the movie continue. And so that was not an easy shoot. And we know James Wan as a horror director likes to challenge himself and continue raising the bar in that genre. So overall, I have faith in James Wan. I think he can pull through and make a great, fun, exciting comic book movie. And he's the right man for the job. He's a filmmaker who continues to challenge himself and wants to raise the bar not only for himself but for that particular genre. And so, James Wan, we have all the faith in the world in you, and we think you're going to make a fantastic movie. How about that? Like Aquaman, all of a sudden there's that one DCEU movie that no worries. You hear no problems about, nothing. And that's just a testament of the kind of filmmaker James Wan is and the kind of dedication he puts to preparing for these kind of movies. I think it's great, honestly. Yep, short episode, guys. Me, you, and the DCEU, episode 10. Make sure you guys leave your comments in the section below regarding the Justice League reshoots, and also James Wan and his thoughts on Aquaman. You guys can follow me on this YouTube channel and on Twitter at GeoDude90. Make sure you guys subscribe to Me, You, and the DCEU if you're a fan of the DC movies, if you're a fan of Zack Snyder, if you're a fan of everything DC related. I love this universe. I love these movies. And that's why I do this podcast. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time.